listen up. Y'all, it's the queen of automation, Megan Donnelly, here to give you inspiration. Founders and business owners gather round. I'ma show you how to build systems that'll astound. Streamline your processes, no need for...
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Queen of Automation podcast, where we talk about all things technology, why it's only good when it works, and how I help you make it work. Today I am really excited because we're going to take a bit of a different spin. Today I am lucky and excited to talk to Alana Tart, and the reason I'm laughing is because I totally just butchered her name, so we had to restart. So here we are, take two. Alana is an executive coach and a mindfulness teacher. That's kind of how she describes herself. And I'm going to let her jump in and introduce herself, tell us where she's turning in from, and tell you all about her because she is a really exciting person. I met her obviously on LinkedIn because that's where we like to hang out, and through a networking community that we both are in love with, which is called Brand Build. And thank you, Darren and Nat, for that. Welcome, Lena. Tell us where you are calling in from and tell everybody all about you.
Thank you so much. I'm calling in from Switzerland.
Which I would love to be in Switzerland any time of the year because it's always beautiful. So
Yeah, and that always throws people.
I said there, so.
And it always throws people because it doesn't match the accent. The accent is Canadian. So,
okay, so how did you end up in Switzerland?
So I ended up in Switzerland because I came over to Europe as a university student. I went to the UK, and then life happens, right? Met my husband long time ago now,
yes.
together, and then we had kids. And you go, what am I doing with life? Where do I want to raise my kids? How do I want to make sure that I'm living really aligned to who I am and what my values are? And that equaled Switzerland.
That's awesome. I think that's great. I would actually, Switzerland is really pretty. It's on my bucket list. It's actually one of the places in Europe I've never been to. And I just have this desire to go skiing and desire, like, you know what, I just want to go, even if it's summer, I don't care. I just want to go because it's got a really, I think a really rich culture that I've never experienced anywhere else. Right. Like, which I think most countries are like that, right? It's all unique.
I'm super grateful.
Yeah. So exactly sure how to describe this to the group. So I want you to talk about it because I know you're an ex-big law girl, right? So
Yep.
Lawyer, does that mean you're actually a lawyer or you're a former lawyer? You're still practicing? Tell us all about that part of your world.
Oh, thank you so much for asking. So I've been on a journey to figure out the balance, and I'm still on that journey, but I'm both. And I'm purposely, because we have one life, right? Why not live a life that actually is fully you? And to drop the law wouldn't be being fully me. I'm just practicing it now in a way that really speaks to me as opposed to speaks to other people being whatever is a more typical path. So I do law for part of the week, and then I do executive coaching and mindfulness teaching for part of the week. So I'm still both. So I'm general counsel of a little cybersecurity company, and then I do just a small number of days a month doing fractional general counsel work for small enterprises because that's where my heart is. But that's the law side. What is a coach? I mean, it is such a crazy cowboy industry with no real definition. What really defines it? At the end of the day, it partially depends on what the coach is there to try and serve. But a good coach is someone who helps you see more clearly than you were able to see before, which again just sounds totally vague. So what do I do? At the moment, my tagline is from shaken to unshakable, but I think I'm about to drop the shaken based on my client feedback. And my clients are saying, look, we don't need to be shaken to come to you, but my God, do you ever make us unshakable? And we do that by involving some of the mindfulness techniques that I have, because like I said, I'm a teacher. That's distinct from a coach. A coach doesn't tell you what to do. A teacher does instruct. But I involve that because that's just one of the best ways towards self-awareness and regulation and really gaining a deep sense of self-trust and your intuitive voice. I had a client that, one of my favorite clients that I talked to today, favorite only because he's been on such a beautiful journey. And we really did have a closing call today. because he's looking at 2025. And with 2025, he says, look, I'm not looking at 5 or 10-year goals because I now know whatever happens, I can face it. I'm going to manage it. I'm going to grow from it. Just bring it on.
That's awesome. And you bring up a really great point, and it's a nice segue because I always like to talk with all of my guests. We always talk about work-life balance. And I always start with, because I'm curious and love everyone's opinion because they're all different, right? I don't believe in work-life balance. I think it's one life, right? I mean, you are working on personal things or you're working on business things, but it's still one life. It's not really separated. You have one life. So it's so funny to me when people are like work-life balance and they're trying to separate it. You can't separate it, especially if you're an entrepreneur. And if you're doing it correctly, in how I've now reframed my mind when it comes to running a business, being an entrepreneur, is I'm working towards building the lifestyle that I want, not the career that I want. It's less about the job and more about my lifestyle. I could be working at Starbucks every day. I mean, it doesn't matter what the job is if it's getting you to the lifestyle that you want to live, right? And I think so many people have this whole work-life balance thing. The way they're framing it, right? In this day and age, it's wrong for me. And I don't want to say it's wrong because everybody has your right to their own opinions, right? But I personally believe it's wrong because you can't separate the two. I would love to hear your thoughts because you're so focused on people's minds. And I can imagine you hear stuff about this all the time.
Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head, though, which is it's not a recipe. It is bespoke.
Yeah.
So for some people, actually, they want to have demarcations because when they go to work, it rests them from everything else that's at home. Or when they come at home, it rests them from everything that's at work. That's their recipe. That's what works in their life. Whereas there's other people who have very integrated recipe. I'm more like you. I don't separate them. My life is just, it's all about, am I going to grow from it? Am I learning? Is this toward the impact that I'm here to have in the world? Is this in alignment with my values? So I have a really different set of questions that apply to everything that I do. But there's other people, they need a different recipe. And I think that's really the key.
Yeah, I mean, the whole one size fits all, it just doesn't exist. And I know, everyone's always talking about blueprints and roadmaps. And you know what? They don't work when you're talking about your mindset. They just don't because everybody's brain is different. Everybody's thoughts are different. Everybody's business is different. What you do for your business and how you schedule your day isn't going to work for me, right? And so it's crazy to me how we've I don't even know how to say it the right way. It's amazing to me how we've ended up in this place of where people think you can just buy $100 blueprint and it's going to fix. No, it doesn't work that way. That doesn't work that way.
It's easier, isn't it? It goes to two things. One, it's easier. It is. If you think, okay, that's going to fix my problem, let's just lift and shift it. And doing the bespoke, finding your own recipe, I'm not going to shy away from it. That's actually hard work because often you have to peel back the layers and you have to peel back why you might be doing things the way you're doing. And I mean, if you really want to get into a lot of what I do, a lot of it is making the unconscious conscious, which frankly isn't always fun. There's going to be times that gets really deep and you're going to have to go back and look at what are the reactive patterns that you've gained from those times when you felt a void in your childhood. So, I mean, let's just say accidentally your parent forgot to pick you up from school. And how you felt on that day, you're still holding today, and some of your reactive patterns around potential abandonment or being late for things is still showing up in your life. Or you had some kind of violation as an adult. Let's say you were promised a corner office and then you got passed over for the promotion, and just the anger because there's so much that was underneath that. One, you were following a road that looked like the right road and yet it didn't turn out. Two, it may violate your values around honesty and integrity. I mean, we can just go on. So actually creating what works for you and your bespoke recipe is hard work. So buying that $100 lift and shift blueprint, well, that just feels easier. Problem is, it will bite you in the end.
Everybody's looking for the easy button, and if you don't put in the work, it doesn't matter what easy button you buy. It doesn't matter what course. It doesn't matter what blueprint. It doesn't matter which coach you work with. If you don't put in your work, if you don't put in the work with yourself, none of it's going to work. What I was so excited to bring you on and talk to you about today was because one of the things that I always say, and it's crazy because, right, systems and tech, mindset, people think they're so far apart. Well, here's the thing that I talk about on a daily basis with everyone. Automate, delegate, or eliminate. This is all to do with mindset. People think that systems and processes immediately means technology. Absolutely not. It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to mean a software system. It doesn't have to mean, when you work on trying to simplify your life and simplify your business, that doesn't necessarily mean technology. Is that the road I go down? Absolutely. Because that's just where I've chosen, that's what I'm good at, is helping people like yourself and helping people put in technology systems that go with what they're trying to build and work with instead of against, right? But it all starts with those three things, which start with your mindset. First of all, you have to figure out what you're working on a daily basis, right? Where are you wasting your time? Where's your mind getting stuck? Where are you wasting time? Okay, now we have to look at, is that thing actually important to your business and your life? If it's not, well, there you go. You can eliminate it because you don't need it. It's just taking up space, not only in your daily task list, but in your mind, right? And that's the thing, is all of these, when I'm talking specifically about all the tech stuff and all the tasks, those tasks not only take up time, physical time where they're taking up mental time and mental capacity, right? So you eliminate the things you don't need. And then the automation, what people don't realize is, if you can figure out how to automate a bunch of stuff, again, not only are you getting back time, you're getting back the mental capacity to work on the stuff that matters, to focus on the things that matter. So that's how I look at, like, when I hear mindfulness and I hear executive coaching, this is the stuff that I think about. And people are like, you're crazy. It's two totally different things. I'm like, but really, at the end of the day, fundamentally, yes, I'm providing you a software, but that's not it.
They're definitely the same. I'm going to go beyond that, though, because I actually am not a proponent for mindset is everything. Mindset's super important. Mindset's the frameworks through which we view things.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you a question. When you get to the point you've got all that clutter you're talking about because you are doing stuff that should be automated or delegated, etc., where do you feel it? Where in your body?
Oh my God, it's just stress. It's everywhere, right? Like, you think about it, your back, the tension,
Right?
the tension in your neck. Feel like,
exactly. Look at how you're holding yourself. Okay, this is why it's not just, that's just a very simple way of saying, this is why it's not just mindset. And when we say mindfulness, a lot of people think mindfulness is about training the mind, because it is about learning how to focus, etc. But truly, it is all very holistic. Mindfulness is about noticing. So it's about deep self-awareness, noticing your emotions, your body sensations, your random thoughts. My gosh, when you meditate, you understand it's just such a dribble, total dribble. Noticing it, and then getting to the point you can recognize your habitual patterns and learn how to respond, not react. So it's and when we talk about mindfulness, I'll just stick there for 1 second before I go to executive coaching. But mindfulness purposely has, because that's the Western discipline of it, purposely has between 7 and 9 what are called attitudes. Not mindsets, they're attitudes like compassion or equanimity or non-judgmental or acceptance, gratitude. Those are the attitudes that you bring to your mindfulness practice. So it's not a mental frame, it's an approach. And so I very much believe you need a whole holistic combination. One of my favorites is that, and I'm a massive proponent for growth mindset, absolutely essential for success in pretty much any aspect of life. But you can weaponize growth mindset to make it become a blame game if you don't combine it with an attitude of self-compassion. So,
I absolutely love that because I just love hearing you say that. So another thing that I can't wait to get your reaction. Another thing so I have 3 teenage boys. Anybody who's following me for more than 5 minutes knows this because I tell ridiculous stories about Nerf guns and swords and sumo suits and Fight Club in the backyard and whatever. Um, so one of the things I've been teaching them, right? Because first of all, being a teenager right now, like, boy, like it's gross, right? And then you're going through all the hormonal changes and all this stuff. And so I've been telling them the only person who can control how you react to a situation is yourself.
yeah.
The only person that controls how you react to any situation at any time
Yep.
is yourself. Now, are there circumstances that make you react that way? Sure, but those aren't the cause and effect, right? And it took a really long time for me as an adult to get there. And like, why am I letting that control how I react? Like, how does this actually affect? It's almost like an out of body experience, which is super weird, right? Like you
It's
step
exactly what
back.
it is. It's the
Yeah.
observer. And that's what,
Yeah.
so, if I'm just going, that's why I incorporate mindfulness training in my executive coaching, because it's training that non-judgmental observer. And that is so powerful. You're not your thoughts. You're not your emotions. You're not your body sensations. You observe all of them, and all of them are you, but you're not them. Really, it is that metacognition that allows that. And then that allows you to look at them and say, oh, what are they telling me? Is that emotional reaction of anger right now? Is that a reaction because there's been a value violation? Or is
Yep.
that a reaction? Like I have a beautiful client right now who we're really going through, massive childhood trauma. So that's why I included the shaken, because I am trained in advanced trauma. And I do enjoy that work because when you manage to work through that, you're never going to get rid of that. But when you manage to incorporate it, that's when you're so empowered. That's when you really step into yourself and become unshakable. And she is going through that middle stage, which a lot of people do, of what I call backdraft. So when you start bringing in compassion and working through everything, all these layers that you have, you can end up actually with a tsunami of difficult emotions. It's hard. And she's held down because her tsunami is pretty big. And then she said, you know what, though, underneath this is this anger, but it's not a rage. She goes, it is telling me I deserve. It is so sick and tired of all of this, of me not stepping in to what I belong, to where I belong, and to having my space. So, if you get to that point that observer becomes strong, you can start hearing what these emotions are telling you and not push away that anger. But for her, it was about embracing it because that anger now is an ally on her journey.
Yep. It's amazing. I wish I had known. I wish I had people like you in my life 7 to 8 years ago when I was still in corporate America and just miserable, because if I had figured out, Josh McLean is a really good person. I don't know if you connected with him on LinkedIn or not, but he is the guy that has figured this out and how to like stay in corporate, but not let the corporate kind of environment suck the life out of him, if you will, right? Like, bleh. You know what I mean? If I had figured out 7 or 8 years ago how to not let the crappy boss control how I react to things, like if I had figured out how to just ignore all that,
I'm going to
I
actually,
would have been way happier. But it was, the emotional reactions to like the crappy boss and the amount of just crap that corporate environment gave me back. And I did. And I look back now and I'm like, well, I
Here's
reacted
what I
that way.
think.
That was
Here's
all
what I
me.
think. I mean, number one, the best advice I could have given my younger self was get a coach way earlier than I did. My goodness, I wish I'd done that. But number two, actually, what may have been more interesting is not necessarily that you would have, quote unquote, survived corporate America happier. You may have earlier understood what is your calling, stepped into it. And when you did step into it, you would have stepped into it without some of that, I'll call it baggage, but let's just call it whatever you're dragging, because from that past, because so much of the time when people move into whatever their next pivot is, often they are responding to their past selves, not moving toward their future self. We have to go from being a fantasizer, that's someone who is responding to our past, whatever that past violation or void was, and trying to fill it, move from that and go to actually stepping into the vision, which is about alignment of values. What is your impact to be in this world? And move toward that. So who knows what would have happened, but definitely faster, right? Like that's the thing a coach does.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, 100%. Oh man, this has been just so great. I hope that everybody's getting out just as much out of this conversation as I am, because I feel like it's there's just such a connection, and I know, again, I said it at the top of the hour, there's such a connection between what you're doing and like the technology and the software and the systems. Like, people just automatically assumes it's this technical, tangible thing, and it's just not that easy, right? We do the same thing. We do the same thing you do. We don't offer a one size fits all. We call ourselves a bespoke ops agency because your business is different than this. Like, and depending on the goals and depending on where they are in their life and their business, it's totally different, right? So nothing is a one size fits all. I am so excited that you decided to join us today. I want you to tell everybody where they can find you, how they can get a hold of you and learn more about you and your journey. And we'll drop all the information in the show notes. But go ahead and tell them that before we sign off for the day.
Well, thank you. It has been such a pleasure. And I can't agree more in terms of the parallels of what we do. So the easiest place to find me is definitely on LinkedIn. And there's a button there that takes you directly to my booking calendar. And then we have a chat. I mean, I tend to be someone who likes a good cup of cocoa, beer in the evening, but I'm also not picky. I love champagne too.
Hey, me too.
Time for a good chat.
We're going to go hang up and drink some breakfast champagne because, well, it's probably later where you are. It's morning for me, evening for her. So it doesn't matter, right? Like, we're going to have a good time. All right, everybody. I am signing off for now. Technology is only good when it works. Remember that. And don't let it stress you out. If you took anything from this episode right now, don't let yourself react to crappy technology, crappy operations and systems, and ask for help if you need it. Bye for now. We will see you next week.
Thank you.